how big a success has this tournament been, according to you?
Yeah, I think as far as we've seen, abhi tak, the crowd has come in big numbers, especially in cities like Delhi, which was surprising even for me to have to see that there's so many people going out there to support the Indian team, obviously, when they were playing. But even yesterday, even though India wasn't there, the crowd showed up in big numbers, which shows that they appreciate good game of football, even though India is not part of the game of the tournament anymore. But they're there to support the other teams and have a good entertaining good game of football. So that's really it's really good to see that. I think it's sort of a changing trend now. With the crowds coming in big numbers, it shows that people are interested, or they have a sort of a change in mindset towards football, and they're more interested in watching the game. They've realized how entertaining a game of football can be, and especially when the top countries in the world are playing. So it's really good to see that.
Absolutely. Very good to see just how, warmly this tournament is being embraced by all Indian fans here. Novi, how do you really gauge how successful a tournament has been? You, of course, look at crowd turnout. You also look at how the tournament has been organized and handled by the local organizing committee. In that context, would you say this has been a success so far?
Yes, a reasonable success. I would have liked more advertisements. I don't think there was enough hoardings all over the country, especially in Delhi there was very little, but the Delhi crowd has been the biggest surprise for me. And Calcutta, of course, has again fulfilled that, Calcutta is the old cliche, the Mecca of Indian football. Average crowds of 50,000, whatever people may say, ultimate passion for football is in Calcutta. Because a little bit, Goa has been a bit disappointing. I expected more people. When Brazil was playing in Goa, and if Brazil cannot attract a full stadium, then all over the world, wherever Brazil goes, whether junior team, senior team, there will be a full stadium. So Goa has been a little disappointing. Guwahati, I'm surprised today watching France, Spain is not completely full. I feel there should have been more advertising, or maybe do the Delhi model, just pile in school children, bring in lots of school children. But otherwise, a well-organized tournament, no complaints. The media has been treated reasonably fairly, and all things is spick and span, but of course FIFA does it. So a lot of Indian organizers are gaining experience also in that. And the grounds, above all, every coach that I've talked to has said the surfaces are wonderful. Whether the Ghanaian coach or the American coach, the hospitality of the crowds, and well as the surface, the playing surface, which is wonderful. Hopefully these playing surfaces remain for Indian football in the future.
Absolutely. How the infrastructure is maintained for the future, of course, is also a very, very important factor. It's good to hear you say that, Novi, that the visiting teams seem to be satisfied and happy, really, with the playing conditions that are being offered here in India. Shebi, good evening. If I could quickly come to you now, as someone who's watching from a distance, what has your first impression been of India's debut hosting, really, of a FIFA World Cup tournament as debut hosts?
Well, Akash, I've been following the Indian games as well, and also the other games. And I must say, watching it from very, very far away, I think, you can attract people, you can attract people's attention. But to keep the attention, to keep the interest going, there has got to be quality on the pitch. And first and foremost, I would say that the three games that the Indian team played, I thought they played a very, very mature brand of football, technically very, very sound. And I think the fans are coming back because of genuine quality on the pitch. You're not watching a kids under 17 tournament. You're watching the stars of the future who are already displaying super technical skills and very, very high knowledge of tactics as well. So all in all, I would say this has been a fantastic ride.
Right. Also, a very telling statistic, Aditi, if I could quickly come to you for this one, a very telling statistic really is the statement that was made by the tournament director Javier Seppi, where he said that the turnout in the Under-17 World Cup so far has been more than the 2011 Cricket World Cup after the same number of matches. The average turnout for the India matches, according to the organising committee, is around 49,000 people. Is that a pleasant surprise, considering the football fan following and the overall football culture is still perhaps in a nascent stage as far as the entire country here in India is concerned?
Yeah, and I was reading the reports. The goal average, in fact, is also 3.5, which is quite high. And obviously, the crowd, like you mentioned, I was reading the report. I think it's almost double or twice or thrice the crowd that was there in the previous Under-17 World Cup in Chile. So that shows, that it's a very positive sign. I'm sure FIFA would take that as a very positive sign that that people here in India are appreciating or appreciate a good game of football, and obviously I'm sure that would have a positive impact in the fact that if India does bid for the Under-20 World Cup, they might even be interested in giving that to India as well, which would be really good.
Right. Right, of course, India's already bid for the Under-17 World Cup. Novi, how big a learning curve do you think has this been really for the Indian team, the players, the Under-17 players? How big a learning curve is it for them?
Well, I think also, and a lot of our social media activists have realized that the gulf is far. We are still miles behind the top teams. That was very obvious. As I agree with what Shebi said, they played modern football. They were well organized. It was not easy to penetrate India, but right. We were good till the middle thirds. In the attacking third, we were practically nowhere. In the match against Ghana, for instance, we barely had 2 tries at goal. And ultimately, that whole weakness, you do not have a striker. You do not have, somebody who can make the final pass like, so many of the top countries seem to have. So it's been a wonderful learning curve, but it's just the beginning,
Absolutely.
It's the end of the beginning. We shouldn't really get carried away. We are still, even, compare us to Iran. Where do we have players of the caliber of Yunus Delphi or Allayar, Allayar Sayyed, or, the complete team that Iran and Iraq are. So it's a good learning curve. Now it's to be seen what is the next stage. Do they stay as a team? Do they go to the clubs? We have to broad base football in India, then only it will take off. These one-off things are not going to be... See, when I grew up, the same number of people used to come for football in India because you had quality players like Chuni Goswami, PK Banerjee, Balaram. I used to stand in a queue one day before to buy a ticket. So I'm not surprised by the number of people coming. Right. In fact, there were more people used to witness football in the 60s than witnessing the World Cup now.
Yes.
East Bengal, Mohun Bagan used to have over 1 lakh. I've done commentary on that.
Yes.
So you get quality football, people will come. This is a myth that people in India don't like football. The football has to be good, people will come. And the facilities have to be good. I think that's the wake-up call which hopefully AIFF realizes.
Right.
These stadiums shouldn't become white elephants. Let people play, not like the Commonwealth Games. Use this should be the legacy. Let people play and let people also be entertained in the sense of food and drinks and things like that.
Absolutely. That's a pertinent point that you make there, Novi. Of course, miles to go as far as Indian football overall is concerned. Let's quickly go back to Aditi now. Aditi, what did you make of the team? And that's the question I put to Novi as well. The team that played this World Cup, can this team develop into perhaps a really competitive team in the future? Of course, they were knocked out in the league stage itself this time around. But if India qualify or host the Under-20 World Cup, then this is the team that will play.
No, I was really impressed with the way India played all the 3 matches. Although in the third game, in the second half, we didn't really see the same amount of fire or hunger in the players. But in the first half, for me, against a very, very strong opponent like Ghana, was very impressive. We've always talked about, whenever we talked about Indian football, it's always said that we perhaps become very defensive and sit back and always sort of try to defend the ball and just clear the ball forward. But in this team, what we saw was that they expected a lot from themselves. And they wanted to, whenever they got the opportunity or whenever they got the ball possession, they wanted to go forward in big numbers, put more numbers in the attacking half and try to score goals. Right. We did come close a couple of times, hit the crossbar unfortunately twice, but Jackson's goal was the highlight of for the Indian team.
Absolutely. Jackson, Komal Thatal, Dheeraj Singh, all these big stars now thanks to this tournament. Just enough time for one final question. I want to put that to Shebi. Shebi, can this perhaps be a watershed moment for Indian football going ahead as far as organising a tournament is concerned, if not the Under-20 World Cup in 2019? If FIFA gives India another tournament in the future, provided of course they bid for it and win the bid, can India then host another successful tournament, you think? Will this open the door?
I think you can, simply because, you have hosted a world-class events, cricket World Cups over and over again. So when it comes to the organizational part, I don't think India will have a problem. But just to go back a little bit, I mean, this is the very first time an Indian football team, an age group Indian football team, has received comprehensive structured training. Don't forget, Ghana have been champions at this level a couple of times. The USA are on fire. Colombia have produced world-class players like James Rodriguez. So I can understand the locals being a bit overly critical.
Right.
But I can say that this is the beginning of something new. Something was born, and yes, you've got to nurture it so that it grows, into something very, very exciting. So you're not far behind in terms of technical football, but the organizational part, like I said, you have hosted world-class events, albeit in a different sport. Not
right.
a problem. I think India is on the right track, both on and off the pitch.